Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Bennetts BSB show. Right then, round 1 is done already and 3 extremely close races at Silverstone. Did you know, Mr. Burton, that all 3 races finished within half a second?
Did not know that.
Between first and second,
Good
there you
stat.
are. Stato. So in episode 2, we are going to review Silverstone. We are going to preview Oulton Park, which is the next round. We've got interviews with Tommy Bridewell, with Franco Bourne, and also some luscious on-board footage with Lee Jackson. Of Oulton Park. But yeah, first things first, we had 3 cracking races, didn't we, at Silverstone?
Yep.
And I'll tell you one thing I noticed. Oh, sorry. Races 1 and 3 had no crashes. Remarkable considering how tight the circuit is, how packed the grid is, how everyone finished within such close range of each other, and how you'd imagine them all coming out of their winter break feeling a bit feisty, don't you? But yeah, mega that. And of course, Christian Iden would probably argue because, of course, he went down in race 2.
Yeah, well, he was taken out in race 2, shall we say. But yeah, 3 real good races, 3 different winners, 3 different manufacturers winning those 3 races as well. So proves that it's a positive start for the championship and really exciting. As you said, there was a lot of drama in there, a lot of good overtakes, and I think a cracking start to the season. Yeah,
long may it continue. If you missed anything, then here's the race highlights from all 3 races.
Tommy Bridewell was on pole position for the first BSB race of 2023 on the beer monster Ducati as the lights went out to begin 22 laps of drama. Into turn 1 it was Kyle Ride, number 77 on the OMG Racing Yamaha, that took the early advantage. Kyle Ride and Jason O'Halloran had a proper tussle early on as they made their way around Brooklands and Loughiel's. Tommy Bridewell leading at this stage, but really solid into turn 1. Copse Corner was number 22, the Osho taking the lead, and then led for a number of laps. Kyle Ride was making his moves past Tommy Bridewell. And Kyle Ride managed to go through on Jason O'Halloran to take the lead. Tommy Bridewell then made the move also on the Australian to move up into second place, and it was really just between these 2. But ultimately the checkered flag came out and it was Kyle Ride taking the first win of the season ahead of Tommy Bridewell, with Josh Brooks back on the podium for the first time since 2021. At Silverstone National, it was time for British Superbike Race 2, but it was not to be much fun for Peter Hickman, who had to start from pit lane. After a great ride yesterday, Kyle Ride managed to get the whole shot into turn 1 ahead of Tommy Bridewell and Jason O'Halloran. It was also a good start for the Irishman Jack Kennedy. There was a bit of drama as Charlie Nesbitt wiped out Christian Iden, and Iden less than pleased with that situation. And Brooks then managed to get through to take the lead on the FHO Racing BMW ahead of Tommy Bridewell. Irwin then got his gloves down. He punched his way past Jason O'Halloran and then launched himself up into podium contention as well. But this massive crash for Danny Buchan on the exit of the final corner brought out the red flags. It went back a lap, and with only a couple of laps left, it meant Josh Brooks is back to winning ways on the FHO Racing BMW, and he was joined on the podium by the 2 beer monster Ducatis of Tommy Bridewell and Glenn Irwin. The third and final British Superbike race saw Jason O'Halloran on pole position as the lights went out. Glenn Irwin fell back initially despite starting from the front row, with Josh Brooks, race winner from earlier in the day, going into second, and a great start for Danny Kent, number 52 as well. O'Halloran then got to the front to lead up ahead of Josh Brooks, with Danny Kent still there though. Danny made his move into second place. Glenn Irwin had picked off a few further back. He'd fallen back to 6th place and then up to 5th and then 4th. And then here came the race-winning overtake. Through into Brooklands went Glenn Irwin, and no one could get close to him. His teammate was coming through as well to try and pick up the podium positions. And after a great weekend of action in Bennetts British Superbike, it was going to be 3 different winners in 3 different races. Danny Kent, unfortunately, just started to fade a little in the closing stages, losing 2nd place here to Josh Brooks, and then ultimately Tommy Bridewell coming through as well, and he made up the final podium positions. The 3rd and final race weekend here, race of the weekend at Silverstone, went to Glenn Irwin.
Cool. A bit of a helter-skelter first 3 races then. And in fact, the 4 main protagonists, as some might say, are only split by 9 points, and it's Brooksy who leads the way. Mega racing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was real good racing, and you saw Kyle Ryde come out on Saturday fighting and took the race win, and then Sunday, for some reason, don't really know why, he seemed to drop back a little bit, and a Yamaha circuit was quite a surprise. But then obviously you saw Brooks come through and win his first race since 2020. BMWs seemed to have started the year strong, certainly the FHO team. And then Glenn Irwin pulling his way through the pack in race 3 was really impressive. And as well as Tommy Bridewell, I think Tommy was as far down as 12th after lap 1.
Was he?
To then pull himself through to 3rd and to walk away with 3 podiums from the first 3 races. And, to me, proves that he's a strong contender.
He was very fast in a straight line, wasn't he? I noticed that through the speed traps he was by far the quickest, I think by some margin. So clearly the Ducatis have been set up for straight line advantage, and it's such a circuit where you do have to carry a lot of corner speed as well, and you can kind of point and squirt at the other bits. Which I thought it might have been a bit more favourable with the Yamaha, and Kyle Ryde, I think almost every lap into Copse he was overtaking someone, and unfortunately for him being re-overtaken later in the lap. But
yeah, no, Kyle was really strong onto the brakes into the sort of big hairpin before he come onto the back straight. I noticed that hardly anyone could pass him there, and he was passing everyone. But one interesting stat that I found out this week, that at Silverstone, Peter Hickman was more or less on the same par of a lap time as his teammate Josh Brooks. Josh was then pulling 0.2 of a second just down the straight, just from being purely lighter than what Pete is and smaller. So in reality, that shows that the straight line speed of Brooks's BM really helped him, and the way that obviously he's lighter and smaller than what Pete is has helped him.
Well, that pre-season work they've been doing has really paid dividends, hasn't it? I mean, we didn't see the BMWs that competitive enough last year, but they weren't regularly in the top 3. And I mean, you called it with Josh Brooks, didn't you? Even in our season preview. I know it's early doors, but he looked very, very strong. And he looks strong, doesn't he? He looks really ready for it. He's got the appetite. He
looks happier. I think straight away you could just see that he's got a bit of a smile on his face, and it seems a happier person in that garage. But the 2 teammates working really well together. Pete and Josh work well together. Pete said that this weekend when I was with him. Josh has said that before as well, that they work well together as a team, which I think is for the greater good for the FHO team. It is very beneficial.
So we had, I've got the results here. It's just I keep looking down to the results. So we've got, Josh Brooks had a 3rd, a 2nd and a 1st, didn't he, over the course of the weekend? And that's why he leads the championship by 2 points. Tommy Bridewell 2nd, consistency for him. He didn't win, but he finished, 2nd, 3rd. That Ducati, again, having not performed as well as expectations last year, it's come good.
Yeah, it has, and I think the new V4, the newer bike, just for some reason just seems to be working a little bit better. Don't know if it's the different engine. I know there is a different engine for this year, and that was one thing I think that Josh was not complaining about, but had frustrations with, that the engine wasn't as strong as what it was before in 2019 and 20 when they were performing well. So I think Ducati have seen that and made those changes, and it's reaping the rewards with obviously Glenn winning the second race on Sunday, and Tommy being so successful, pole position, under the lap record in qualifying as well, and obviously taking 3 podiums.
Who else had a good weekend in your eyes?
Jack Kennedy.
He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, proper good. Yeah,
I've
really
been qualifying
good.
in the front row, obviously as a result of his pace in race 2.
Yeah,
and he pushed, and he was really good. He showed a very mature head. I know he's got a lot of experience in the lower classes and a bit in the big class, to be fair. But
yeah, he showed a lot. He showed a lot of pace. I think he was probably always going to do Silverstone National Circuit. Suits the Yamaha quite well. So if Jack is to continue this trend, he needs to do it at Oulton Park and the remaining rounds coming up. But if he was going to do well anywhere, it was always going to be Silverstone, i.e. Kyle Ryde winning the first race. However, he was very strong. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I probably don't think I'm going to be wrong here, but he was close to taking the lead. I think he was really pushing for the lead at points in the third race. Then just dropped back slightly, and I think he finished, according to the timesheets, finished 8th.
He had 7th, 7th, 8th. Mm-hmm. I mean, 8th, it sounds a bit far down, but of course they were so close together.
Yeah.
And he's therefore 7th in the championship.
Yeah. So a really strong start to the season. And yeah, for me, he's probably one of the ones that have done really well. Leon Haslam, for me, did really, really well, really strong, showed some good pace.
He didn't qualify so well, did he, for race 1? But then he came through. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, Leon, for me, always seems to come through strong in races. His one-lap pace often isn't the best. However, he always pulls it through in races, and you can see that over the weekend. I think his results, especially on a bike that he's not really had a lot of time on, as well, if you look at it that way. 3 days in Spain, hardly any days really during the test programme because of the weather.
Good for him, and consistent. 6th, and guess what? 6th. Anyone else? I'll tell you who my pick would be, and it's Danny Kent.
Yep.
Again, I don't think anybody was expecting him to come good on that Honda, on that brand new Honda to him, and it's a brand new team run by himself. But didn't he do well? He led,
really strong. Led the last race, and I was quite surprised. I'll hold my hands up. I wasn't expecting Danny to do as well as he did. But again, it is a little bit of a Honda circuit. Glenn Irwin went and won 3 races there last year. Yeah. So it does tend to lean itself to the Honda quite nicely. Andy Irwin was running strong at Silverstone this year before a mechanical. So yeah, for me, Danny was another standout performer.
9th, 8th and 5th for Danny. Yeah, just talk about Honda for a second. So there was a mechanical for Tom Neve, wasn't there, in one of the races, and a mechanical for Andrew Irwin in another. Were they related?
I'm not too sure. I've not asked the question. They look fairly the same sort of issue, same sort of mechanical issue, shall we say. And I think they've been working hard in the workshop over the last few days since that round. Didn't go to the test at Oulton Park purely because, 1, for the weather, I think 2, just to get down to the bottom of these issues.
Sure. And on the flip side, who didn't do as well as we expected? Who could have done better?
Christian Idden, for me, could have done a lot better, and I think the team admitted that. Steve Moore put a lengthy Facebook post out sort of saying how difficult racing can be. It's a little bit like War and Peace. So if you are friends with him, it's worthwhile going to read it if you've got spare 20 minutes. But Christian, I think Christian was quite surprised at how much he'd struggled, which I was quite surprised as well. I was expecting to see him up there.
Good, fine. And like we say, Glenn Owen third in the league, 3rd in the championship, Tommy Bridewell 2nd and Josh Brooks 1st as we head towards Oulton Park this weekend. And the BikeSocial sprint race will be on the Sunday, of course, isn't it?
Yes, bank holiday weekend this weekend.
The bank holiday. Now, last year, actually, before we head off into the realms of Oulton Park, let's just catch up with, we've mentioned him already, Mr. Tommy Bridewell, currently 2nd in the championship on his Beer Monster Ducati.
So, Tommy Bridewell, welcome to Bennetts BikeSocial. Thank you very much for joining us on a very wet afternoon at Oulton Park. First of all, let's just look back on the first round. Positive opening round for you. 3 podiums, walking away 2nd in the championship. You must be fairly happy with your weekend's work.
Yeah, no, I am. I got to be sensible now in this. No, I am. I'm more than happy. Round 1 for us, obviously, was a new venture for me, new venture for the team. I've never worked with them. Completely new dynamic, I think, to probably what they've been used to in some degree. And I'm quite an outgoing character, and so I think it was a really refreshing start. Obviously, the team's got the new V4RF 23, which is phenomenal. But all of that aside, I think going into round 1, Silverstone, Ducati's never been the strongest bike there. I quite enjoy Silverstone, but it's not particularly made for my riding style. I like to kind of you say your 90% of British tracks are quite aggressive, heavy braking, stop start, and real intense. Where Silverstone's quite flowing, and you've got to be quite relaxed. So to come away with obviously first pole position and then 3 podiums was more than we could have ever asked for, in all honesty. So yeah, positive, really positive weekend. The way now the points are obviously different in the BSB. Not that I have that in my mind as such, but in the same aspects, the way the points are, I think it's important to really be consolidating as many strong points as you can, literally from race one. I think the biggest comment that I've had already was, bloody hell, what's going on? You're normally a bit of a slow starter and kind of build into the season. Sort of 4 or 5 rounds in is when I kind of start coming to the top. But no, just biking in everything feels that good that I don't feel like I'm riding with any stress. I don't feel like I'm riding, remotely beyond myself. So maybe in 4 or 5 rounds time I'll be even better as such. But no, it was definitely a dream start for myself and for the team as a whole.
Were you surprised at how strong you came on in the third race, the final race of the weekend? Because I think you got a bit of a bad start and you dropped back a little bit, but then you soon worked your way through.
Oh, yeah.
And you got yourself into a real strong position. So did you walk away from that thinking, well, even if we do have a bad start, I know that I can pick my way through these guys and I know I've got the pace?
Yeah. The problem is, as a racer, you probably... in the past, I probably would have looked at more negatives than positives, and I genuinely am a pint half full kind of chap. But I just messed up the start. I knew going into that race starting 9th, confident is what I would say. I didn't feel like it would take me long at all to, if I wanted to get straight to the front of the pack. I felt that I do feel that confident with the team and the bike. But what hampered me was starting in 9th, underestimating how difficult it was going to be to get to the front, and then making a bad start out of all weekend. I've been making good starts, but I think I was so eager to make a good start to get to the front as quick as possible. I then made a bad start. So I ended up dropping to I think 10th or 11th, 12th, something like that. And I still didn't stress. I was like, look, fine, I'll pick them off as and when. There was one area that I felt great on the bike. When I was on my own, I could make the bike work phenomenal. But in a battle, I needed actually something different. And it hampered me in the race a little bit, because where I really needed to be making the passes, where I was phenomenally good on the brakes, I couldn't get close enough to them to do that. So it was really, really tough, that race, really tough, because where I was having to make the overtakes was somewhere that I wasn't confident enough to do, but I had to make the passes. Luckily for me, with the way the new V4R is, my pace towards the end of the race is really strong. So about let's say lap 3 to 20 almost, I knew I had to be patient. I knew I had to just pick them off where I could. But once their grip had dropped and I was able to get out of the corners I was struggling at beforehand, I knew then I could make the passes, and that's pretty much what I'd done. The only downside was I needed more laps to get to the front. By the time I got up to 3rd, I think I was riding quite comfortable. I think, to be honest, Josh was riding quite comfortable as well. Glenn did a good job and got the team the win, which was the main thing. But I think if it's 30 laps and you can't ever say that, but if I could have got into a better position a bit earlier, then I think we would have definitely, took the fight for the race victory in that one.
How did you feel that it was your teammate that took the first win of the season for the team and not you? Were you a little bit frustrated going over the line, or were you just like, it's what it is?
Oh, hate it. No, hate it, yeah. There's no point in me lying about it. I absolutely hate the fact of it, but I also have to have a look at the bigger picture, that there's a lot of positives in it. There's a lot of positives that, me being pole position, me getting the podiums, and Glenn also being able to do it as well, and obviously then showing that the bike's able to win is the positives. But yeah, every rider wants to be the number one, wants to be winning the races. I don't I want to win every single race. I know it sounds stupid, but yeah, in truth, I'm really happy for the team. I feel like we've got a lot of strength within the package, so you know, I can't be too disappointed for the. It's very easy to look at the last race and think, oh damn, my teammate won, oh it's a disaster. But in truth, I feel like we made a lot of input into that, and yeah, it was a good weekend.
Let's look ahead to the next round then at Oulton Park. Obviously, we're here today at the test, and you've not spun any laps because it's absolutely chucking it down with rain.
Yeah.
Is that a little bit frustrating for you that the weather's hampered again another test session, another vital time for you on the bike at a circuit?
No, not even remotely.
Not bothered?
No, not even remotely. Honestly, I was probably maybe a little bit out of turn, but I'm not that fussed at being here. I did say to the team that, look, you know, if the time is better to be used elsewhere with development or something perhaps on other areas, then don't stress that I'm not stressing to go to Oulton Park. Because in truth, I think we all looked at the forecasts and knew that today particularly was going to be probably the worst day. But I love Oulton Park, I love riding around here. But I think it's like anything. I jumped on this bike in Navarra test. I did 10 laps, 15 laps, and come in. I said to the team, wow, this is nice, you know, really good. I didn't expect it because I rode the Ducati now for a few years, but this is a real positive step. So I believe that if we can do what we did at Silverstone, then I'm quite reserved in what I say because you never know, but I believe if we are as strong as we were at Silverstone, then I believe we'll be even stronger at what was already our strong circuits. You know, even in previous years when things haven't quite been where I would expect it or need it or want it, I've still been able to be strong. So the way I feel on the bike now is really, really good. Probably best I've felt since I made a comment like since 2019 when the bike first came out. The bike, unfortunately, in 2019, then Pirelli changed the tyre diameter, and it had a big impact on the bike, a big effect. And it's taken a main few years for me to be able to go and get back to go, right, this is mega, you know, and that's really how I feel. So when it's 5 degrees raining outside, I don't feel like the risk to reward factor is remotely anywhere near. So I don't need to go out. I'm confident enough that, in all honesty, I can roll out an FP1 in 2 weeks' time and it won't make no odds. Yeah.
It's not like this is a bad circuit for you. You showed that a few years ago where you completely dominated and you run away with the race, one of the races, and I think you won it by about 30 odd seconds or something.
Yeah.
So you can.
My skill's phenomenal. Unbelievable.
Oh, I didn't want to say it. I'd rather you said it. But it just shows that realistically, this is a good circuit for yourself.
Yeah, but 100% agree with you. It is a very good circuit for myself. It's a good circuit for the bike. But weirdly, it's Silverstone. When we were there a week before for the test, testing a week before round one, it was fairly similar conditions in truth. I only ever wanted to ride if it was wet, but we managed to get out and it was fine. But the problem there was the track temperature, and it's the same here, where I knew after Navarra, like I said, that I just felt confident. If I felt confident going into Silverstone with limited track time, then in all honesty, I don't think here will be an issue.
Have you ever felt this confident? Because you literally do seem like you are on top of the world, and there's nothing really that's gonna put you down. But from what I've seen the last few years, there has been times where you have been a little bit down. But now you literally look on top of the world. Yeah. Have you ever felt this confident heading into a season?
No, because in truth, in previous years, and like go back to 19, I knew how good the bike was and my package was, but the facts of the matter are I was then having to compete against PBM. Their wealth of knowledge, their direct link to the factory, their Italian technicians in the garage is so difficult so difficult to beat, you know. You see it in World Superbikes, you see it in Grand Prix, you see it everywhere, that you will have a factory team, and genuinely, not just down to anything else bar the resources, the funding, everything involved, makes them the factory team, makes them the top of the league as such. Fortunately, now I'm in that team, and I'm with a team that give me the information, so much detail. I can go into it and we can be here for hours, but so much detail of, I know exactly who's behind me on track every single lap, by what gap, who's crashed, who's this, who's that, when I need to take risk, when I don't need to take risk, when I need up the pace, when I don't. All these little things that give me such fine detail to go, right, Tom, you really need to push now, or right, that's fine, you know, good, spot on, that I do. And belief in the team, you know, I believe in their process. I believe in, if they tell me we need you to do this X, Y, and Z. My crew chief Paolo said to me at Silverstone, I was riding the bike smoother and calmer in FP3 than I was in qualifying before the red flag happened. I believe that. I believe that, you know, in the facts of the matter are, I go out in Q in qualifying at Silverstone, 53.4, really pushing hard. Genuinely felt like, there's nothing left. Paolo said to me, look, doing a great job. It's never negative, but he's like, you're doing a great job, but be smoother here, smoother there, here, red flagged, go back out within one lap, 52.9, because I just absorb the advice. So that's probably why I feel and am confident, because I'm not trying to go against what they say. I'm not, you know, some superior rider. I'm just here to learn, and if they can help me in any step of the way, then I'll take it with open arms.
Good, a confident chat there with Tommy Bridewell, and he'd mentioned to us off camera actually when we interviewed him at the Silverstone pre-season test he talked about how confident he was on the bike, and that was only just in testing, and of course that was shining through at Silverstone, and he must be carrying that into Oulton, around a place where he's gone well before.
Yeah, he has. I think you can just see from that interview how confident he is and how happy he is. You know, he's probably in, as he calls it, the best team in the paddock. Yeah. He's in probably the best form of his career so far. And I think, you know, heading to Oulton Park, a circuit that I think 2-3 years ago, he literally dominated.
Yeah.
He won the race by about 20 seconds, and you never see that in British Superbikes. So he's heading into there with a lot of confidence. He actually said to us he didn't want to go to the Oulton Park test. He didn't feel it was going to be any beneficial for him or the team. If anything, it was going to cost the team money to go, because he didn't really want to go. He said it was just felt a bit of a waste of time, because he knows the circuit well enough. He was confident that the Ducati is going to do well. So for me, Tommy's probably going to be the one to watch heading into the weekend.
Speaks volumes, doesn't it, when a rider doesn't want to go and test?
Yeah.
Especially on a brand new, in inverted commas, bike.
Yeah,
I
think he kind of said it tongue in cheek, but he sort of just said, look, there really isn't anything to gain. There's nothing for us to gain, you know. And literally on that Wednesday that I was there, nobody really went out and did any laps, especially Tommy. Tommy was sat drinking coffee all day. He was not bothered about going out. And I only think he did a handful of laps on the Thursday in good weather. Mm.
Moving on, before we talk about Oulton Park in the next round of the Bennetts British Superbike Championship, we must talk about a young fella who, again, I think it would be fair to say that not many of us had heard of. It's not much of a household name before the Silverstone weekend. And I'm talking about a chap who was in the Superstock class, and he goes by the name of Franco Bourne. Now, you caught up with him, didn't you? Just before we link to that interview, tell us a bit about his background and where he's come from, and how remarkable his feat was.
Yeah, so Franco has come from sort of fab racing, the Metro kits and the mini moto racing, moved up into sort of British Talent Cup, went and won that a few years ago. Unfortunately, was kind of left without a ride, a little bit like the Rory Skinner situation. He then went into Stock 600 for a few years, then moved into Stock 1000 for this year, and put it this way, surprised everyone with how well he did.
He's a whippersnapper, isn't he? He's only, was he 19?
Yeah, something like that, and he's from Newcastle as well, so.
Here he is.
And Franco Bourne instantly gets a great start. the Honda British Talent Cup champion of 2020. It is number 17, Franco Bourne. Brilliant. The Franco Bourne Steve Patrickson Racing Honda crosses the line and hugs all round for the team from Crook in County Durham.
The winner ahead of Dan Linford, with Alex Olsen finishing in 3rd place.
Thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to Bennetts BikeSocial. First of all, you're the hot topic on everyone's list and everybody's talking about after your heroics at Silverstone. Just first of all, did you expect to be so competitive so early on in Stock 1000?
No, definitely not. Yeah, it was really good weekend for us. Obviously testing did go quite well, so yeah, I think the team had some expectations, like hopefully top 6, around that sort of area. But yeah, when I got it second on the grid, I was just blown away, really, couldn't believe it. Yeah, then got a good start. I mean, for podium in my first race, I couldn't have really been more happy with that, to be honest. And then to go and get the win the next day was just the icing on the top, really. It was amazing. So no, definitely didn't expect a weekend like that, but happy to come away with it.
What were your expectations heading into the weekend? Did you think top 6 would be ideal, or were you expecting something a bit different?
Well, to be honest, I think when you think about it, you always think you want to win it straight away. You want to be someone who does really well straight away. But no, to be honest, I definitely didn't expect to be that high up. Like I say, we had a really good test, to be honest, in Spain. We got on really well with the bike straight away. Obviously, I come from a Kawasaki and just gelled with the bike pretty quick, to be honest. So I hoped I'd be top 10 sort of in the points, but would never imagine that I'd come away from Silverstone with a win.
And I suppose battling in the group that you were with, obviously you had Dan Linfoot behind you, Billy McConnell behind you. You had loads of Superbike riders, basically Superbike winners, and you've gone out there and beaten them all. So that must give you a lot of confidence heading into to the next round here at Oulton Park, but also heading on to the rest of the season. Yeah,
I mean, the amount that I learnt in that first race was just unbelievable, really. I think I learnt more in that race than I did in a whole season of Stock 6 last year. So it was just sort of how much I learnt in the first race. Obviously, going into that, I didn't know how to manage a tyre. Stock 6, you can generally go out and go for it the full race and still have a tyre at the end. So for me, it was more about going into that first race, learning what I could do with the tyre, like how hard we had to push, what lap times we were going to be in. So for that second race, just gave me a bit of confidence after knowing how to save the tyre a bit more, how hard I could push, just to get to the front and sort of trust myself, do my own thing a bit more instead of using the other riders to set the pace. So yeah, just really good to be with some experienced riders, to be honest, and learn quite a lot in a single race.
You led us on quite nicely there. You spoke about Stock 6. For the people that don't know about you, just talk to us about your racing career. Where did you start? How did you get started? And what have you been doing? What have you done to lead you up to this point now?
So I started in a club called BikeWise Mini Bike Club up in Durham. Sort of progressed from there really on mini motors. Started racing up in Scotland and progressed on to a Metrokit 70 in Fab, and sort of just went from there really. We did the Thundersport Super Teens, and then obviously the British Talent Cup came about, did the first year of that, and then that's sort of when we got introduced to the BSB paddock. My third year British Talent Cup, managed to win that, and then I didn't get a ride out of that at the end of the year, so natural progression was go to Stock 6. Did 2 years of that, did all right in the first year, managed to come runner-up the second year, and again, naturally just wanted to progress onto the bigger bikes. Luckily we had Matt, who's sort of the team with Marvel, provided the bike, so yeah, that's sort of how we came into the Stock 1000 Championship.
And you've got a lot of good people behind you, like you said, you just mentioned Matt, but you've also got Boasty in there as well, Pete.
Yeah, Pete.
How much of a help is it to have really experienced people behind you that know what they're doing to give you that lift heading into a weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we've got an amazing team really. Everyone works the roles really well. But like I say, with Boasty, I probably wouldn't have had anything what I've got now without him. He introduced me to Matt, pretty much everyone who I know in racing today really. So it's obviously it's not what you know or who you know. It's been really good having people like that to help me out in my racing.
How much have you had to not curb your enthusiasm or dampen down your expectations, but we've seen a lot of people on social media talking about you this week, and Lee Johnson saying, sign him, if I was a Superbike team owner, I'd be signing him up right now.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? How have you dealt with that so far this week?
Yeah, like I say, to be honest, coming into it, I was hoping, top 15s, but I think a good result sort of spoils all that, really. You know, if you can win somewhere, you hopefully want to try and get wins in other places. But you know, first year in Stock 6, I just want to stay on the bike, be consistent. Top 6s for me would be really good, to be honest. Honestly, if I can, I know Oulton Park is going to be quite a hard round physically for me, so if I can be in the top 6, grab more podiums, hopefully maybe another few wins in the year, that'd be an absolutely amazing first season for me.
How difficult has it been to change to slick tyres this year? Because obviously I don't suppose, other than at British Talent Cup level, you've never really ridden on slicks, but these are proper slicks, shall we say, with a bigger profile and everything. So how much of a switch in your mind has that been for you, in a positive way or maybe a negative way?
It sort of came at the right time for me, really, because I came onto a new bike, so everything was new. It wasn't like I'd learnt a new bike and then had something new come into it. When I got on the bike, every single thing was new, so it wasn't sort of a process of learning the tyres, it was just everything, really. So it wasn't something that I noticed massively, because everything was different to what I'd known before that. So it's a good progression for me, really, because I had to change to everything, not just the tyres.
Lastly then, what were you thinking when you drove out of Silverstone? What was your overriding emotion and thoughts? Because obviously it was a whirlwind weekend and everybody was extremely impressed with how you rode, but how did you feel about it all personally?
Still can't believe it, to be honest. Yeah, it was you know, unheard of, really, for someone to go into the first weekend of a Stock 1000 race and come away with 2 podiums, let alone a win. Couldn't believe it, really. It's just you know, just need to keep my feet on the ground, keep trying, like you say, just keep pushing for top 6s, really.
There we are, Franco Bourne, not Jason Bourne. He is a name or a man that you should certainly be looking out for in future races. Moving on to Oulton Park. So that's the next round, that's this weekend. We've already talked about it being a Sunday-Monday race series, so make sure you set your tapes for Sunday-Monday, not Saturday-Sunday. Last year we had, in the corresponding round, a double from Bradley Ray, the resulting champion, and then Lee Jackson won his first BSB race there in very emotional scenes as well. But we've got Lee to talk us through an onboard lap and giving you some idea of where you should be watching. Here's Mr. Jackson.
So here we are, coming out of Deers Leap onto the start finish straight at Oulton Park. 5th gear, quite fast corner, lent on the side of the tyre, back 2 gears into turn 1. It's quite a technical corner, there's a big bump on the apex which then fires you out quite wide out of turn 1. Coming down these Cascades, great place for watching for the fans. You can see us coming down here from turn 1, turn 2 and then turn 3, and then firing out onto the back straight, so you get quite a good viewing point there. Also quite a good passing place if you're brave enough, so you can get some action there. Island Bend, one of the fastest corners on the track, back from 5th gear to 4th. Into Shell Oils, where is also a good passing place, but hard to watch for spectators. It's a great feeling at Shell Oils, it's very banked, so if you get a chance to walk the circuit on an evening, then great to do so. First chicane at Oulton, very tight and technical, just get the bike stopped, 1st gear, fire out, and then that puts you in a great passing spot into the 2nd chicane. You can actually get to this point on the track to watch, so it is also a good place to see people overtake him. 2nd chicane, back to 2nd gear, keep right, left, and as you flick it left again, I've passed here many a time. It's great for sticking it up the inside and, you know, surprising a few people. Out of Knickerbrook, up Clay Hill, fantastic part of the track, up 3 gears, try and stop the bike wheeling into Druids, and again, very tight, but also can be passed at, as seen last year. But coming out of Druids, the bike wants to wheelie, the bike wants to move around, great for getting the camera shots there into the last corner, and again, a great passing point. So if you fancy watching into the last lap moves, then get yourself to the last corner. Out the last corner, get the bike stood up, fired out, 2 or 3 gears before you hit the checker flag and cross the finish line.
Good, that was an interesting bit of insight from Lee Jackson, and of course that lap was the qualifying lap by Bradley Ray. So, what's going to happen at Oulton Park, Mystic Meg?
Good question. Good question. I'm
Throwing you under the bus
certainly
there.
not Mystic Meg. But I think it will be 3 really strong, exciting races.
I love Oulton Park. It's a brilliant circuit.
Yeah, it's proper
a
good
real
circuit.
roller coaster.
Yeah, proper good circuit.
Of course, the boys have been testing there since Silverstone ahead of the race. One day was particularly wet, and then the second day was okay, wasn't it, for a portion?
Yeah, it was very windy, I believe, from what I was told. It was very, very windy. But again, the sort of main protagonists were up there. Peter Hickman was actually very strong as well, which was not a surprise. I think he was slightly surprised by it, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
But
Had they made any changes? Did he talk to you about?
Not really. He's not made really many changes to it. It's been a good package out of the box. They've still had a few things to work through in terms of engine braking strategies and mapping and things like that with the electronics. But everything else is kind of more or less the same as what it was from last year, really, he thinks. I think the fact of now that he's got a fast teammate is helping push him along massively.
What else? Who else was good? Who else was strong? Anyone surprise you?
Not really. I think Leon Haslam is certainly starting to surprise me a little bit. I wasn't expecting him to be so strong so quickly, because obviously it's a new bike to hit. Well, new bike to him, new team and everything else like that. So it takes a little while for things to gel. But for me, Leon could be quite a surprise heading into the weekend. Wasn't a surprise that Jason O'Halloran finished fastest. However, he did have a bit of an off. At the end of, or sort of middle of the day, Shell Oils made a bit of a mess of the bike and went out on the second bike that he was trying. So I can imagine that Jason will be strong. I don't think you can look too far past Josh Brooks and Tommy Bridewell. Josh loves Oulton Park, so does Tommy. They're both in good form.
Yeah.
Bikes are both in good windows, so I'll keep on the Josh Brooks love for this year, and I can't see past Josh really.
We're not yet at a stage in the season where we're talking about people who need a performance, but in terms of, I guess a lot of what goes through a racer's mind when they come to these rounds is that confidence, isn't it? We've seen Tommy, we've heard from him as well earlier on. Who could do with a good showing?
For me, Lee Jackson could really do with a good showing. He really struggled at Silverstone. Don't really know as to why he struggled. I do know that he's got a different swing arm in there compared to what he had last year. So he's now got the sort of, I say factory in inverted commas, he's got the factory Kawasaki swing arm that Jonathan Ray and Alex Lowe's use in World Superbikes, whereas his teammate Max Cook is still using the Suter swing arm. So there's a bit of a difference there. So I don't know whether if that had anything to play, any part to play. But I think Lee needs to have a good weekend. Lee really does really need to pick it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Andy Irwin again, I think he needs some good point scoring rides, some solid point scoring rides. Jason O'Halloran, I think Jason just wants to get that first win under his belt this year. He's always goes strong at Oulton Park. We've seen him there a few years. He's been the race winner in a number of races. So for me, I think not needs to do well. Yeah. I think Jason will probably have it in the back of his mind that he wants to do well to get that monkey off his back this year to get that first win. Sure.
What about newbies? What about the debutants? We had, I think it's Tim Neve who was the strongest at Silverstone, wasn't it, of the new guys in the class?
Yes, yeah, Tim was one of the strongest at Silverstone. He did have a little bit of an off at the test at turn 1. I think he's absolutely fine. I think he's just a bit battered and bruised. Right. But he did it was quite a big off from what I was told. But Tim's absolutely fine, so he should be fine for the race weekend. Just a bit battered and bruised. But I think Tim will continue on that good, rich vein of form. I think Davey Todd, you might see Davey sort of improve a little bit more this weekend. Charlie Nesbitt, for me, could do quite well as well. Yes. However, I believe he's got a little bit of a penalty heading into the weekend after his incident with Christian.
Right.
So I'm not sure whether if he's got a grid place penalty ahead of the weekend. But yeah, so for me, those three guys are the newbies, of the debutantes, of the rookies, if you want to call them. I think those three guys are probably the main rookies to watch this weekend.
And I just wanted to touch on Ryan Vickers, who has, I think, come out, hasn't he, last week, and said that he was actually riding with an injury, wasn't he, at Silverstone. He had that crash at Navarra in the pre-season testing, and I don't think that he realised actually this injury existed until he was scanned after Silverstone. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. I believe he's had an operation on a broken wrist, right, or something like that. So Luke Stapleford actually took the ride for the test. And if Ryan isn't fit, Luke Stapleford will be riding, or should be riding, the Lamy OMG Racing Yamaha in replacement of Ryan Vickers. I mean, he's made of hard stuff if he does ride. A week after having an operation on a broken wrist riding around Oulton Park, it's not one for the faint-hearted, but I'm sure Ryan will want to get on the bike if he's past fit. If he isn't, like I say, you probably will see Luke Stapleford on that R1. Yeah,
and he's no stranger to the Superbike class.
Nope.
Good. All right. Well, look, we're talking about the OMG Yamaha, and it was Bradley Ray who took 2 wins last year. Let's remind ourselves of what happened.
Round 2 of the Bennetts British Superbike Championship from Oulton Park. Kyle Ryde was on pole position ahead of Josh Brooks and Luke Mossey. And it was a good start as well. The whole shot into turn 1 and a really good start from the second row for Kawasaki rider Rory Skinner, despite going slightly wide on the exit. Brad Ray made his way past Josh Brooks and then tried to challenge Kyle Ryde, but at this point Rory Skinner had got through to take the lead, and then it was 2 for the price of 1. A beautiful move from Bradley Ray into Old Hall, 3rd to 1st, and no one could catch him. Further back, Leon Haslam was trying to get as many points as possible, a place in the top 10 as he went through there on Danny Kent. There were problems for Bjorn Esmond, unfortunately. Number 27 had to retire early. This is Jason O'Halloran going up past Andy Irwin in pursuit of another top 6 finish. And out front, Bradley Ray had built his lead up to almost 2 seconds, with Skinner in 2nd and Kyle Ryde in 3rd, much to the delight there of team boss Alan Gardner. The Irwin brothers got a bit messy down into He's Glenn Irwin with a cheeky move on brother Andy. Leon Haslam just in behind them as well. And Tommy Bridewell was starting to make great movement through the field. From 16th on the grid, he'd got past Idden. He then managed to get past Jason O'Halloran. And in this 14-lap race, was looking to try and possibly get a podium. It looked like it might be on. Number 28, Brad Ray, 2.5 seconds up the road ahead of Rory Skinner, looking for his first win in 4 years after the disappointment, of course, a couple of weeks ago at Silverstone. The teammate for the weekend, though, horrible accident for Dave Johnson, the Australian, and the red flags had to come out. We send our best wishes to him and hope that he's okay. And the race was declared a result. 12 laps out of 14 completed, and it's a win for Bradley Ray ahead of Rory Skinner and Kyle Ryde. Bradley Ray was on pole position for Bennetts British Superbike Race 2 from Oulton Park, and he managed to get the whole shot too, the number 28, into turn 1 ahead of 77, his teammate Kyle Ryde, with a good start from Lee Jackson, managing to go through into 3rd. Further back, Christian Idden was getting involved in a scrap with Andy Irwin. There was a big crash though for Andy Irwin as he went out of the race. Also a moment for Connor Cummins, number 24 on the Paget's Honda, as he crashed out while second from last. Nigel Snook was in good spirits, keeping an eye on his riders. Rory Skinner here, number 11, and Lee Jackson. And whilst that was going on, Tommy Bridewell went out of contention whilst placed 5th overall. Out front, building and stretching his advantage, Bradley Ray was looking in complete control, but then this massive moment brought out the safety car. Luke Mossey, unfortunately, dislocating his shoulder. When the safety car came out, that bunched the group back up again. Ray, of course, leading from Kyle Ryde and the 2 FS3 Kawasaki's, and he made the most of it from the word go. Kyle Ryde had a big out-of-seat moment. There was drama for Tom Neve. He went across the grass, but ultimately nobody could catch the man out front. Lee Jackson, in the closing stages, managed to get his machine up into 2nd place with a lovely move on the cutback through the exit of Hizzies. But it was all in vain as they tried to catch Bradley Ray. The checkered flag was being made ready, and just in the last minute, Leon Haslam also popped his name through. The 2018 champion fighting his way through to get himself his first podium of 2022. Number 28, the Rich Energy OMG Racing Yamaha rider, Brad Ray, though, was readying himself for the final lap. The checkered flag came out, and it was the double at Oulton Park for Ray, with Jackson in 2nd and Leon Haslam placed in 3rd for his first podium of the season. Race 3 from Oulton Park did not go to plan for Ryan Vickers, as he had to pull off to one side at the start, but Bradley Ray was looking for the treble, starting from pole position on the approach into turn 1. Kyle Ryde got through. There was a horrific crash though at turn 1 for Tom Neve, who went through to the barriers. He was conscious after this, but took a trip to the medical centre. The safety car came out, and then as it pulled back in again, Bradley Ray would continue to lead from his teammate Kyle Ryde, who tried to look for a move into turn 1. Big high side as well for then Andy Irwin. 2 falls from the day, unfortunately, for the Senetic BMW man. Lee Jackson was on fire. Tommy Bridewell was in close pursuit as well as they tried to hunt down Bradley Ray out front. Kyle Ryde was fading after arm pump issues earlier in the day. Tommy Bridewell then pounced, moving through on the FS3 Kawasaki rider Lee Jackson, but the pair of them started to reel in race leader Bradley Ray. Kyle Rides then was caught, unfortunately, arm pump issues again, as Rory Skinner went through on him with Jason O'Halloran and Leon Haslam in hot pursuit. But the gap at the front was coming down. Once at 2.1 seconds, eventually they were on him. Tommy Bridewell went through initially on Bradley Ray, the number 46, a lovely move on the approach to Island Bend. And then on the cutback again, just as he did earlier in the day, Lee Jackson moved up into second place. It was looking like it was going to be a Tommy Bridewell win again, but Lee Jackson was on fire. He had the rhythm and the pace. Brilliant, brave move into Shell Oils, and he started to increase the gap as he was looking for his first ever BSB win, and it didn't come without a few nerves, a bit of a moment on the rear end, but ultimately he did it. The moment he's dreamt of, and his mum Sam there. Lee Jackson is finally a British Superbike race winner. He wins here today ahead of Tommy Bridewell and Bradley Ray.
Good, more of the same please for Oulton Park this year. Joining us, Leah T from Bennetts. Leah, what is going on in your neck of the woods at Oulton Park this weekend? What can BikeSocial members expect?
So it's super exciting this coming weekend at Oulton Park for BikeSocial members for many reasons. Not only are we being joined by 120 BikeSocial members and Bennetts customers who have already won experiences by entering a competition on membership. Those guys will be getting up to safety car laps, grid walks, pit lane tours. We've got 30 in the hospitality suite. So yeah, they're set for a great weekend. But if you don't already have experiences with us this weekend, you can come and join us by simply heading over to our stand, which is opposite the cafe on that big corner, where we've got the dome set up. And we're also joined by Renaissance Racing. So those guys are bringing some of the bikes they've brought to the track day as well, which is super exciting. So that'll be really nice for everyone to see. We'll also have the safety cars, the pillion bikes on display. The safety bikes that they do the pillion laps on are on display. And you come and see us there, and you can join us if you're a BikeSocial member or Bennetts customer for some of our new super experiences, which will be, they debuted them at Silverstone and they went down so well. So the Pit Perch launched at Silverstone, and well, I don't think we had any free time slots there, did we? It was fully booked.
Flat out all day long, every day.
That's when customers can literally sit on the pit wall.
No, so it's an amazing...
Well, not literally, because they can't dangle their legs over it, but they can lean on the pit wall.
Scoop bag. But no, it's an amazing experience because you can really feel the whole atmosphere and the whole session. You can experience it like you're part of a team. You know, there is literally no way you can get any closer to the action. So you can do that at Oulton Park this weekend, and you can also join us for our new super viewing area at Oulton Park, which is going to be located on the exit of pit lane. And to be part of that, all you've got to do is come see us on our stand and get signed up on the day of that you'd like to do that.
Is that the same as the Pit Perch? You just come and get signed up?
Exactly, so same as the Pit Perch, come over, we've got a big desk that says Super Experiences, chat to whoever's behind that desk, and then they'll get you signed up for something.
Will they see you there?
I shall be there, yes, I'll be there indeed, and look forward to it.
Brilliant, and what about next? So we've got Donington Park is the next round, but then competitions are closed, right, for that already?
So we've drawn Donington Park now, so there'll be some lucky BikeSocial members and Bennetts customers with a very nice email in their inbox, and make sure they reply on time, if not they'll miss out on the opportunity. But still live on BikeSocial membership, we have got the Knockhill, Snetterton and Brands Hatch competitions are live currently, so make sure you get entered because you might have the chance to win an amazing day in hospitality or something similar.
Marvellous, thank you very much for that. Good, all right, that brings us to a close for episode 2. Thank you so much for joining us. And well, look, like Leah says, if you're going along to Oulton Park, make sure you go and see the Bennetts guys there, and you could be in with a nice little reward. See you next time. If you've got any thoughts, comments, questions, queries, let's put them in the comment section below. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you next time.